Welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by SportBuff. I'm your host, Tim Capper, along with Cliffy D. Well, it's that time, bud. It is the time where all Canadians get together. It doesn't matter what team you root for in the CFL. You're able to get together with your friends, whether it be in Hamilton or if you're holding a party somewhere else. But one of the most watched television broadcasts of the year is coming up this week. And unfortunately, obviously, the Alouettes are not going to be in the Grey Cup this year. But, from what we saw in each of the division finals, it looks like we're going to have hey, we can say we had the last back-to-back Grey Cup, same two teams in the last, so we were the last team to take part in that. So they're just, we can say they're just copying us.
One could say that.
Does that really fly? Or am I just, grasping at straws because the Owls aren't in it?
Maybe a little bit of grasping at straws. But you know what, man? This is what we got, folks. This is what we have to work with. So it is what it is. Again, if you've been living under a rock, it's obviously going to be a rematch of the 2019 Grey Cup where the Hamilton Tiger Cats will be taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Big difference is, though, the game's going to be played in Hamilton's house at Tim Hortons Field. Now, it's interesting to note, I've been, following both teams' accounts, and it's really interesting how the Tiger Cats, they're really convinced it's like another home game for them. And I guess in a sense it is, but at the same time, I'm not sure of the idea of requesting fans dress all in black. I'm sure the Hamilton fans will be on board with that 100%. But let's not forget, there are still quite a few fans that come throughout Canada and will support their team in the Grey Cup, not necessarily your team. So if you think you can convince a whole bunch of Riders Nation to give up the green and wear black, more power to you, but I just don't see it happening. I think you're not going to get that blackout effect you may have gotten 2 weeks ago against the Alouettes. And even then, I still saw a fair bit of color throughout the stadium as well. So, I guess it was kind of like the Alouettes doing their whiteouts back when things were not so great for the team. It's like, you could wear white if you want to, and everybody else is like, well, you can just, go screw yourself, and I'll wear whatever the hell I want.
Yep.
I think there was a little bit of that. Again, I didn't see a lot of Hamilton fans wearing, black, but it just wasn't quite the blackout effect that you see in college football, for example. No. And those crazy uniforms made usually most of the time by Nike.
So, but yeah, Hamilton is looking to become to be able to win the championship at home for the first time since the Saskatchewan Roughriders did it in 2013 and the Argonauts did it in 2012. So it's something that has happened before in the CFL. So it's not, it's not something that's never happened before, but, it's going to be a very warm Grey Cup from what we've seen. I think they're calling for +4.
Wow. For mid-December, that's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. So, even though the Owls are not going to be in it, we still have a great show to talk about this week. And the big one is our interview this week. We're going to be speaking with Alouettes President Mario Cecchini. Great listen. We do hope you stay for the entire thing because he does drop a few little nuggets from what he can tell us. Mm-hmm. With the 2021 and what's coming up for 2022. So make sure you listen carefully. We're going to be talking about just in here in a couple of minutes about who the Alouettes free agents are and how Cliffy and I rank who really needs to stay with the team and who possibly the Owls could let go and look for somebody else. But just a reminder, though, the Alouettes did announce officially 2 days ago, and we're taping this on the 8th, that 2022 memberships can be purchased officially, I guess we can say now. If you go to the Alouettes webpage at montrealalouettes.com and you can put in a $50 deposit. Stay tuned because I'm sure we'll be finding out very shortly about what the new schedule will be for 2022 and all other information concerning 2022 memberships. Also, just a quick update. As you know, we announced last week that if we can get ourselves to 100 followers on our YouTube channel, we will be giving away a brand new with tags satin
Delta jacket. Yeah, and that we have to make it clear that is a brand new jacket, because I've actually had a few people message me and like, does that mean you and Tim are giving away your jackets? I'm like, no, we're giving you your very own jacket.
I saw when you did that. Hey, if you want mine, I can sign it.
I mean, I don't want to devalue the jacket by signing it and trying to sell it on eBay or anything, but no, folks, it is your very own jacket, because Tim and I we like our jackets, and I'm going to keep mine, and I'm pretty sure Tim's going to keep his.
Yes, I am.
So this one is all yours. 100% all yours, free of charge.
Still in the plastic, too. Still in the plastic. Let's put it that way also. That's how new that these jackets are.
There you go.
So,
I mean, yeah. So if that's not enough, folks, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell people on the street. I don't care who you tell. Tell them they've got to subscribe to the Alouettes Flightdeck YouTube channel.
Yes. We are halfway there. We thank everybody so far who has subscribed to the channel. But we're almost, as I said, we're more than halfway there. And as I said, if we can get an influx, we'll be able to do this by the end of the year. But we'll take it as it goes, and we'll keep giving you updates on social and through the podcast itself. So, a quick note before we get to our topics this week. This isn't necessarily the finale for the 2021 season. We have plans of possibly producing one more show before the end of the year, which I think we would call our season finale, and then we'll get into season 7. So stay tuned to social media, and we'll keep you up to date if we're going to be having that show like we hope to. So stay tuned. Mm-hmm. All right. So it was a list was produced 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks ago by the guys over at 3 Down Begin, because the league hasn't put out a list, an official list of who the free agents are going to be for the Alouettes. And it's an interesting list, to say the least, Cliff, because there are some people who are a huge part of this Alouettes franchise. There are some huge names also here that you have been watching for quite a while, and it could be concerning considering who they are. So we'll get right to it. So first and foremost, one of the free agents this year is going to be Matthew Schiltz. In my opinion, because we can go over each of the positions here, Cliff. In my opinion, I think Schiltz will be staying, and I wouldn't be surprised if he signs for another 2-year contract.
And nothing would make me happier than to see Schiltz back in Alouettes blue and red, because once again, we got to see what he was able to do. Finally able to see what he was able to do when given the keys to the car. And he did, as far as I'm concerned, an extremely good job. I think he played extremely well when Vernon Adams went down. Won that thrilling game on Thanksgiving against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Beat them again a few days later. And once again, I know people are going to say, well, it was the Ottawa Red Blacks and they sucked out loud this year. Like, fine, whatever. At the end of the day, he had a job to do, and he did it. And he did it quite well, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So to me, keeping Schiltz here, a guy who knows the system, who has grown with the Alouettes, who has become an integral part of this team, working in tandem with Vernon Adams Jr., to me, I think signing him to an extension is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. Like, to have that quarterback depth is crucial. Again, I have all the faith in the world that Vernon Adams is going to come back in 2022 healthier than ever, ready to go. And having Schiltz as his backup is paramount as far as I'm concerned. And yes, I know we still have the albatross of Trevor Harris currently hanging overhead. To me, though, I think it's kind of a non-issue, because, I would be absolutely floored to see the Alouettes keep him beyond February 1st, where that $300,000 bonus kicks in. Mm-hmm. I mean, is there a scenario where Trevor Harris would, you cut him and then you re-sign him at a much lower price? That's a potential. Yeah. It could very well happen.
Yeah.
Would he be willing to renegotiate his contract? I highly doubt it.
Considering his history, I agree with you on that one.
Yep. So, I mean, like Trevor Harris says, he wants to stay in Montreal. He says that playing here was like a breath of fresh air. But, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but, I mean, his resume as an Alouette is not that great, to tell you the truth. If we're being honest, I'm not going to slander the guy, but, I mean, the facts speaks for themselves. He was not great in an Alouettes uniform, and quite frankly, beyond the health of Vernon Adams, I don't see any reason of keeping him on. If you want to get another quarterback because you don't have, for whatever reason, faith in Adams's health or Schiltz's performance, I just don't think Trevor Harris is the direction that the Alouettes would want to go in, and I guess we'll see what happens as the winter approaches.
Yeah, and again, like I said last week, I think it'll be decided by January. If not, I think it's very possible we may find something out after Grey Cup. I wouldn't be surprised, because they want to start promoting the team for 2022.
Well, that's it, and it's all about putting the best foot forward and making sure you got the pieces in place. And free agency's in February, so again, that decision is going to have to be made probably a lot sooner than February 1st. So I guess we'll see. I mean,
yeah. I agree.
I mean, anything is possible in the Canadian Football League. I think you and I know that. But to me, I just don't foresee a plausible scenario where Trevor Harris would still be a member of the Alouettes. So as far as the quarterback situation goes when it comes to free agency and Matthew Schiltz, you got to retain him. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I agree. Running backs, Jeshon Antwi, Regis Sibasu, Alexandre Gagne, Martice Jackson, Spencer Moore, Christophe Normand.
Well, Jeshon Antwi, unfortunately, I think people are only going to remember him now for all the wrong reasons, specifically the costly fumbles he had against Ottawa in the regular season's finale.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I still think he's a very talented player and definitely would be worth considering bringing back. Not to mention the fact, too, that being a national player definitely helps the ratio. As far as Regis Sibasu, he's played very well on special teams. I don't think he got any rushing opportunities at all in 2021.
No.
I really, truly think he was strictly a special teamer. A very good special teamer, but it's interesting to note he is a running back, but and actually played as receiver for the University of Montreal, but somehow is listed as a running back. But okay, but primarily a special teamer.
Go figure.
Yeah. Alexandre Gagne, same thing. A very good special teamer because he also filled in for Pierre-Luc Caron as far as a long snapper goes. So to me, that's he's definitely earned a spot on this team in that regards. Because let's face it, you see it all the time. You don't think about the long snapper until you don't have a long snapper.
Mm-hmm.
And credits to Gagne, he stepped up and he made it happen. Like he did, I think, a very solid job in relief of Pierre-Luc Caron. Sorry. Man, that was a tongue twister. But Alexandre Gagne, I could definitely see being offered a contract and sticking around here for 2022 and beyond. Martice Jackson, again, we didn't see a whole lot due to injuries, but what we saw was pretty decent.
Yeah.
I think he'd be worth another look, at least an invite to camp. Spencer Moore and Christophe Normand, again, you saw them a little bit more on special teams or in second and long situations, or sometimes even second and short. They're more second down players. Not outstanding. I mean, they were definitely solid contributors, but the thing I worry about with Spencer Moore is he's not a young man anymore. He's definitely a veteran.
Right.
I don't know how much more he's got to offer. Christophe Normand is actually the Jake Gaudier Memorial Award nominee for the Alouettes. He's done some outstanding work in the community and is very much a leader in the locker room. That being said, though, I'm still have not seen anything truly outstanding from him on the field enough to warrant saying, oh yeah, he's a definite re-sign. That being said, though, I definitely see potential in bringing him back into camp, if only to have experience as well as someone who knows special teams as well. So
who would you bring back if you're of the six that are listed? If you had to choose at least one to bring back, who would you bring back? Because I mean, I would look at probably Spencer Moore, or again, maybe Jeshon Antwi, because he did. A player is not one game. We all have to understand that, and he just didn't get his chance. That's the way that it is when it comes to wide receivers. They drop a ball, you can go back to them almost immediately. They try to do that with Jeshon, but I probably would go Jeshon, and I probably would go with Spencer Moore. I'd bring those two. If I had to choose, I'd bring those two back.
Mm-hmm.
You?
I'd probably go with Antwi and probably Alexandre Gagne.
Okay.
And again, this is the tricky part, because if you're talking strictly as a running back, then it would be Antwi and Jackson. If you're looking more towards special teams, then it would have to be Gagne and Moore.
That's fair. I agree with you on that one.
So it's kind of a tricky one, because if you're going strictly by their positions, but you take a look at the player themselves and what they've contributed to the team, it becomes a different argument altogether.
Yeah. Here's the big list. Wow, this is a big list. Receiver, Dante Absher, Mari Alford, B.J. Cunningham, Eugene Lewis, Rashawn Simonize, and Jake Winicki.
I'll tell you this. If the Alouettes do not bring back Eugene Lewis and Jake Winicki, it won't be pretty.
Yeah. And I noticed you left out, as much as we love BJ, I think with the coming out party for, Reggie White Jr.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it may have not been the same way for BJ when he got hurt a couple years back. I don't think it was the same exact thing. The wide receiver that took over for him, I don't think was as productive. Alfred, I probably see him staying specifically for returns.
Yeah.
I think that's almost you can put a check mark by that name.
Right.
Eugene Lewis, Jake Winicki, yeah, I see that also. It's very possible Rashawn Simonize may also be back because he is a national receiver. And he didn't get much this year because I think the last couple of games he was on, he was a healthy scratch, but he still is a Canadian who has experience in the CFL.
That's it. He's a ratio breaker. So
yeah, exactly. So if I were to choose some of these things here,
all right, pick three.
Because Absher did well too in place when Eugene Lewis went down. So this is tough, man. See, we also have to remember who's also on the roster now. Who's on the practice roster, who didn't get in. One being as an example, Fabian Guerra. He didn't get his chance to do anything this year because he was re-signed late, et cetera, et cetera. But if I were to have to choose, to me, it would be Eugene, Jake, Alfred, more or less for returns. Again, Simonize. But if I were to have to choose three of those six, those are the three that I would choose.
Winicki, Lewis, and Alfred?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking the same way. Like, to me, I think Eugene and Jake are automatic, especially after the year they had. And regardless of who the quarterback was, these guys produced. Like, to me, that you almost want to hand them a blank check and say, here, how much do you want?
Exactly. And I think I may have said this last week, or maybe I just said it to you, but in all honesty, for them to have Eugene back, I think it may easily depend on who's going to be the starting quarterback. I mean, I really think that might be a
deal breaker or maker, even.
Yes, in my opinion.
You know what? You're not wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Like, and again, as I just finished saying, like, Eugene Lewis was productive regardless of who was throwing him the football. Yeah. Hell, he even threw the football himself and was productive. So,
and if it wasn't for him being hurt, he would have led the league in yardage. He would have broken 1,000 yards, and he would have led. He would have led the league in yardage.
Yeah. And TD Jake, he did lead the league in touchdown receptions.
Exactly.
Full stop. I mean, like that's a no-brainer signing right there. Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, those two guys, without question, if you don't sign those guys to contracts, there's going to be you better have a damn good reason why not.
Yeah. Offensive line, David Brown, David Foucault, Chris Schluger, Tony Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Tony's coming back after, obviously he broke his leg in 2019. I think he played very well, and he was banged up near the end of the season. Mm. I think he is somebody you need to put a check mark by, in my opinion. But it depends, age and whatever. It depends on I'm sure.
Yeah, he's not a young man, unfortunately. I mean, he still plays with fire. He still has that spark, and veteran leadership is so important, especially with a position like the offensive line. I mean, that's definitely a bring back as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, too, with him not being a young man, you may not necessarily want to blow your brains out paying him six figures.
Right. And did any of the other three, because obviously we know the issues with the offensive line. I think the other thing that we need to look at is, of the remaining three that are free agents, which of them shined in 2021 when they were called upon?
David Brown definitely did, because he stepped in for Sean Jameson at center, which was no small task.
Nope.
I mean, yeah, even if you have Christian Matt as essentially a backup and someone who had played the center position before, they were leaning heavily on Jameson to start, and then David Brown was able to step in and did an admirable job, all things considered. So I think that's if you were going to, of those three, I think that would definitely be an automatic bring back, because if only for the depth.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, if Sean Jameson stays healthy, he's definitely one of the best young centers in the Canadian Football League. And David Brown definitely has potential to be likewise if called upon. Foucault and Schluger, I hate to say it, like Schluger unfortunately just can't stay healthy. So I mean, when he's played, he's been solid, but just injured far too often. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but to me, it's unfortunately not a bring back. David Foucault, I mean, he was a backup for the most part, and then when he did actually get actual playing time, fortunately didn't look. I mean, he looked good in a lot of instances, but like they say, you're only as good as your last game, and his last game was not good at all. Yeah. He did not help his quarterback at all, as far as I'm concerned. I think as much as Trevor Harris has to assume a good portion of the blame for what went down in Hamilton, you could take a look at pretty much the entire offensive line, but mostly Foucault. Like, there was times where he was just blown up by Hamilton's defensive line, and they were able to make life miserable for Harris.
It makes me wonder, depending on how many, just these 4 free agents, how heavily the Owls will go in to free agency when it comes to getting either an offensive lineman through free agency or through a trade.
Well, there's one name on the list, or he's not really on the list, because I don't know if he's going to become, if he is a pending free agent or not, but Derek Dennis. Mm-hmm. Is someone that I would be, if I'm Danny Machocha, I'm finding a way to get this guy. I know the Elks were holding him out of spite, essentially, because he had opted not to play this year due to COVID and family concerns, but then decided that he did want to play and asked to be released, and the team basically said no, and they didn't want him with the Elks, but they didn't want to let him go and pursue other opportunities. Mm-hmm. Which I think was extremely petty on their part. But let's not forget, the regime that did that is no longer in place in Edmonton.
Exactly.
So it can go one of two ways. One, maybe Dennis would be willing to go back to Edmonton, depending on who the new general manager and head coach are. Or whoever the new general manager and head coach are might be willing to make a deal happen. And if we can bring Derek Dennis to Montreal, that would be huge as far as I'm concerned. That's the kind of move that should have been made as far as I'm concerned this season.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's face it, the offensive line, they were good for the most part this year. But when they were banged up, you noticed the depth that we thought we had suddenly wasn't so good. Yeah, and if we had someone like that in the lineup, I think that would have made a huge difference. It would have helped keep a Trevor Harris a little more upright and maybe given him more time to hold. I mean, get rid of the ball. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think that's something that the Alouettes are going to have to take a good long look at as far as when the free agency goes, is taking a look at the offensive line and thinking about getting a little bit younger, but finding people with experience as well. To find some young veterans to bring in and help guys like Philippe Gagnon, Sean Jameson, Christian Matt. I mean, and this year's draft. I mean, now that Montreal has a first-round draft pick, for the first time in what feels like forever, that's a road they could be going down too. But to me, I think if you can find a young veteran to bring in and help just bolster this offensive line, I think that's got to be priority number one as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Now, just we'll go. By the way, no kickers and we have no long snappers. They put those here specifically, so we don't have to worry about them. Now, here's the big thing. Now, obviously, the defense did quite well this year. There are some names here that are going to be very interesting. So first, we'll start off quickly with the defensive line: Woody Barron, Jean-Samuel Blanc, David Menard, Nick Usher, Michael Wakefield. They all played prominent parts this year in the defensive line. The question is, Cliff, who do we not want to sign? This is probably one of the toughest lists. It really is. I mean, just by the way, the Eastern nominee for most outstanding Canadian is on this list. I know. And as you keep mentioning, one start in 2021. One start. Unbelievable. And that's the thing. Everybody else on this list has started for this team. I mean, well, Menard started too, but I mean, Woody Barron was the starting defensive lineman. Nick Usher. I mean, those are two starters right there. And I think Woody Barron was a beast this year. He was. He absolutely was. He was expected to take on that leadership role, and I think for the most part he has done that. Nick Usher, I laughed when someone called him a free agent bust, because he started out kind of slow, but towards the end he really kicked into high gear and proved his worth. Like, to me, like, that's the kind of guy I want on my team as well. Like, I was excited when the Alouettes signed him as a free agent, and I'd say for the most part he did not disappoint. I think he wasn't perfect. Nobody on this defensive line was perfect, but I think he did help improve and help make this defense as feared as it was. So I think definitely Woody and Nick and Menard are the three. If I had to pick three guys to sign out of that list, those three, without question, would be, a go out and keep.
I would say in my opinion, I think they need to try to sign all these guys some way, if possible, because they're pretty big names. I mean, defensive. When we're doing the list for defensive backs in a couple of minutes, it's even worse.
Oh boy!
Oh my God! So let's do linebackers real quick here, Cliff. Jason Hall, Paul Kozacek, DJ Lalama, and Ahmad Thompson. Now, we talked at the beginning of the show, we don't know what's happening with DJ Lalama because he sat out this year and he's at home in Manitoba.
Yeah.
And he's taking on coaching. So
that's right.
Yeah. So that right now is really up in the air. So I don't know if we should technically, quote unquote, disqualify him at the moment, but we need to find out more information. But he is a free agent. Well, I think he's a keeper. I still think he's a keeper. But man, I'm going to say pick one.
Then to pick one out of those would be
because we gotta spend our money wisely. Obviously, you know what I'm getting at.
Right. Okay. If I can only pick one, then I'm going with Kozacek.
Okay.
Because he was a midseason addition.
Yeah.
After he left in free agency after 2019, went back home to Toronto because he's a Toronto guy. I think he went through training camp with the Argos, and then I don't know if he was cut during training camp or if he managed to play a couple of games for the Argos. I honestly don't remember, but he ended up being released and ended up back in Montreal. And boy almighty, was he good. He played extremely well on special teams, and even a couple of the defensive battles that he was in. He looked good. He looked really like he's one of those high motor guys, and to me, like, he was a big part of this team in 2019, a very solid contributor on special teams, and just kept on going in 2021, despite, the year off, despite not being a part of the team to start. Like, to me, like this is a guy who's going to grow with this team if you give him the opportunity. To me, like, I think if I had to pick one out of these four, I think it would have to be Kozacek.
Okay. All right. Here's the big one. Probably the second biggest list when it comes to well-known names next to the list of wide receivers.
Oh, my.
Defensive backs. Ryan Carter, Ty Cranston, Kerfala Emmanuel.
Exume.
Thank you. Exume. Taekwon Glass. Money Hunter. Patrick Levels. Najee Murray. Greg Reed. Dominique Dermenson. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay, to me, right away, Greg Reed has to be a keeper. They got to find a way to keep and sign Greg to at least a 2-year contract.
Yep.
Because he has played lights out ever since he's come to Montreal. Lights out.
Yeah, he didn't quite. I'm sure it's probably bugging the hell out of him that he didn't make the All-Star team like he did in 2019. Like, I won't say he fell off, but didn't quite have the outstanding year that he did in 2019. He still was very much an important part of this team. He still made plays happen, but I don't want to say he took a step back necessarily, but he didn't quite have that all-star year. That being said, you and I know the potential this guy has. You know what he brings to the table each and every week, and for that alone, I think you definitely still have to keep him as a part of this team.
Yeah. Now look at the others, dude. See, this is the problem. Money played well. Patrick did well when he was keeping his mouth shut. This one's tough, dude. I don't even want to make a list say you can only have to pick 4, but I would say if you have to pick 4, just to keep it interesting.
Well, and the really tough part is Ryan Carter. Unfortunately, he tore his Achilles and it was out all year.
Yeah. Dominique
Dermenson was placed on the suspended list.
Yep.
Everybody else, though, was a part of this team on the field. Ty Cranston, I think, stepped up in light of the injury to Marc-Antoine Decoy.
Yeah,
and proved himself to be very, very valuable. Taekwon Glass, I really had high hopes for him because I really thought that he would be one of those big-time players for the Alouettes, and he did okay, but not outstanding. I mean, for every great play that he had, he'd also have like a real brain fart.
Yeah.
it happens. I mean, nobody's perfect, but I mean, it was just very inconsistent as far as play goes. Exume, a solid special teamer, but that's about it. He really didn't get a whole lot of chance to play it in the secondary very much this year, so I really can't.
I think that just goes to show how dominant that our starters currently are.
For the most part, yes. To me, if you told me I had to pick 4 on this list, I'd probably go Cranston, Hunter, Murray, and Reed.
Yeah. I think and even though he did what he did this year, I think I would also get my, just outside of that list to me would be Patrick Levels.
Yeah. I mean, let's, again, say what you will about him running his mouth about the guarantee and all that stuff. That doesn't matter. That's one game. If you take a look at his overall body of work, he was the leader in the secondary for this Alouettes team.
Yeah. Okay.
I love watching him play, and I love that. I even love the fact that he was able to, talk his talk. I mean, unfortunately, it was not the best of looks for him getting blown up by Brendan Banks in the Eastern semifinal. But
again, I'm going to go. That was a beautiful pass.
Well, it sure was. And listen, what are you going to do about it? And to his credit, Levels owned up.
Yeah.
Again, if you're going to talk trash, then you better bring it. And that particular day, he did not.
No.
It happened. It's one game, though. You take a look at his overall body work in 2021, he is still a phenomenal player. He is still somebody I would want on my team just for what he brings.
I agree.
As far as energy goes, as far as motivation, as far as just playmaking ability, he's unparalleled in that department.
I agree.
And he showed it throughout the regular season. I think give him the opportunity to do that again in 2022, I truly think that he can still be that guy.
I would not be surprised, Cliff. I know it's a little bit later than it was that the season ended compared to 2019 and most seasons. Obviously, the week in between Grey Cup is usually it's the same thing with the Super Bowl where no other news comes out. I would not be surprised if we hear after Christmas or in between Christmas and the New Year that some of these guys have been signed.
You think there's deals in a drawer, as I used to say?
I think so.
Could be.
I think so. Which would be nice. So we'll see.
I think so.
Maybe it's possible a lot of these guys don't. And the thing is, people like, if you check Gino's Instagram, he's still here in Montreal. The funniest thing the other day where he was actually explaining how we clean up our snow here. And he was showing the snow cleaners, the machines that come up, chew up the snow and spit it out into the trucks. Mm-hmm. He was explaining. I love it. I think Gino, I would not be surprised if Gino was one of the first announced. Would not be surprised.
No, I think, again,
because I think he would. I think he wants to finish his career as an Alouette.
I think so too. I think he loves this city. I think he loves playing here. I think he loves what this team is and what it's become. To me, I think there's no better Christmas gift that Danny Machocha can give Alouettes Nation than to announce, oh, by the way, Gino's staying put.
Yeah, exactly.
For 2 years minimum,
and then the stuff fall into place. As promised, obviously this is something we're going to keep track of and going forward. So make sure you check out our social media. As promised, it's a second season in a row that we've been able to. Second year in a row that we've been able to speak with the Alouettes president Mario Cecchini. Listen to the interview that we had with him just the other day, and pay attention to some pretty, as I mentioned at the top of the show, some pretty interesting tidbits. So. We'll get to the interview with them, and when we get back, we will finish up the show. And what we're hoping to become an annual tradition, second year in a row, we happen to have the gentleman who hopefully will be able to give a little bit of insight on the past year and what's coming up for the 2022 Alouettes. On the line with us now is President of the Alouettes, Mario Cecchini. Hey, Mario, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen. Hope everything is fine with you guys.
Everything's good, except I'm sure Cliff can agree that we wish this weekend that the Alouettes were in the Grey Cup, as I'm sure as you would too.
That's why I say with you guys.
Yeah. I think this is something we can all agree on 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, last year, Mario, when we spoke, things were a little bit more up in the air. It was a little bit more better this year, obviously, with us being able to have a season, even though it was a shortened season, but that's fine. overall, I did watch the Alouettes year-end press conference. There were a lot of pluses, and for those who may have not watched the press conference, can you give a quick synopsis on the pluses that the Alouettes had this past season?
Well, let me start with on the field performance because, and then we can go to wherever you want afterwards,
Sure.
admin and season, and and ticket sales and all that.
Yeah.
I don't want people to forget, when we say that we're disappointed, and I think I wrote it in my note also to ticket holders and on my Facebook page, we are disappointed because we knew we had the team to go all the way. And there's still no doubt in my mind, I hope not in yours, but it's always debatable. But I think most guys and most experts and most people, observers, would agree that, we had the team to go very, very far in the playoffs and in the season. So that's the disappointment. And to underline that, of course, you just look at our stats on the offense, where we are number one or number two in about every category. So that speaks volume about how we had the potential. And at the same time, we had a difficult defense in the first 6 games. And you do remember we made some changes.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I changed the coach and rearranged it around with Byron Miles and Greg Quick and Byron Archambault, the new coaches that came in. And not new coaches, but different duties. And suddenly with only in the remaining 8 games, I think gave up 20 points, only twice.
Yeah.
The Winnipeg game, the Hamilton game, and that was it. So a very solid defense. Now, what did hurt us a lot was special teams that we were not necessarily happy with. That was very difficult and gave a lot of field positioning sometimes. This is why sometimes we may have lost some of the low-scoring games. But so, and I can go on about the game of choice, and we can talk about everything that you want afterwards. Because I'm sure I will keep some room for you guys having questions. But then, so basically that's what we talked about. We talked about at the press conference also about indiscipline, which clearly was an issue this year, and we will take the step. We all, we vow to take the steps that this doesn't represent me, doesn't represent Danny, doesn't represent Kahari, and doesn't represent the Alouettes and the character that we want to show. So it was a recurring problem, and that's inexcusable. That's the big frustration of this year. This being said, on the administrative side, we raised our tickets, our season tickets grew by 20 points, about 18 or 19%, I believe. We grew our individual tickets by 45%. By 54%. We grew by 18 new sponsors. And you remember we talked about that last year. In COVID times, it was a challenge. Yeah. So we grew that part of our business. We grew our boxes versus 2019, of course, were 137% improvement. We basically sold out the business club, so 40% more tickets, which all of this to say that when you look at tickets, we basically made the same revenue as 2019 with 3 games less. So that gives you a sense of the progress. And then obviously that all means that the deficit that, Gary Stern I talked about, which I'm sure you remember the number that he even though we're a private company, Gary made that number public at his press conference. So we basically cut it in half, So it's a good first step. We're not happy with those results in the sense that we obviously want to have more. That was also done when there were 7 games. If you remember, 4 of those 7 games came as of, beyond October 22nd. So late October and November, which is not typical.
Right.
We were not blessed with good weather during those games, but, that happens. And I know that true football fans don't care, but the occasional football fan might. So that probably affected us a little bit. And the context, of course, the COVID, less people downtown in offices, So last minute arrangements to say, let's have dinner downtown and stay at the game. When you're at home, maybe in the suburbs, it's much tougher to get up your butt, as we say, at 5:00 and say, let me drive downtown, when you've been spending all week at home. So all of these little things and adjustments in consumer behavior, makes it that we need to find new ways to reach out to people. So in a nutshell, I hope I've given you the gist of the hour and a half press conference we did last week.
You did. When the season began, Mario, was there a particular number that you were hoping to average before you knew what the government was going to allow in stadium that you would have been comfortable with? Because I think the team ended up around 11,000 or 12,000 on average for the 7 games. But was there a number that the team had been looking at?
Listen, not really, because if you go back to June when the season started, we were only permitted 2,500.
Right.
When we made the decision around the schedule, we were told 2,500 for the summer, then maybe 5,000 for my September and October game, October 11th, and then maybe for October and November we would be up to 10,000.
Right.
So we did not even plan that way. Then 2 weeks before the season, we are told you can have 15,000. So less time to sell tickets, of course, a bit more difficulty there. But we would have been happy with more of an average of sold tickets. When I say that, and that's very important, because sometimes when we report audiences, and you heard it at the press conference because the question was asked, there's tickets that were given away, of course, to sponsors, to media, to players, to staff. And former administration were given out just more than we did. So the numbers I quoted were actually people buying tickets. So that for us, to me, is a very good sign. Just like the ratings were up on TV, so the engagement versus the team was great. So I would have hoped, that we would sustain. So if you ask me, I'll answer you on the basis of 2023. I do want to grow this number, of course.
For sure.
And now we'll be able to do a lot of the community events that we couldn't do, a lot of the marketing aspect of it, us reaching out to meet fans and all that. So hopefully we're able to reach a 13,000, 14,000 of sold tickets.
Right.
And that's the important thing. Yeah.
One last question about attendance, and this is something that Cliff and I had talked about throughout the year, and I want see if I can get your opinion on it or what the team was thinking. Obviously, as you said, we were blessed to have a very unique schedule, but I think it was a positive schedule in itself. At the beginning of the year, when we had the home opener, we had, I think it was close to 15 or 16,000 people, or whatever, near maximum that we were allowed at that time. But that was
we were at 15, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a week prior, or that was 3 weeks prior to the COVID passport becoming active. In your opinion, do you think that the introduction of the COVID passport caused less people to come to the games than what they did, let's say, week 1 for the Alouettes?
No doubt in my mind that it caused issues. It's hard to put a number on it. Yeah. But for sure, first of all, those who were not vaccinated, right there, it's a constraint. So if 20% of the population is not vaccinated, all things being equal, maybe 15 to 20% of our crowd is not. Right. So right away, there's that number of people that cannot come. And then there's just the trouble of waiting. It takes a bit longer. We were asking people to come earlier, and so we were still seeing lines. People who came in late missed sometimes the first 10 minutes, So that's not fun. And then obviously there's the sense of what I was referring to, consumer behavior. When that passport, what it does also, it sort of puts a big spotlight on the fact that there might be, it's still strange to be with a crowd. So you have those people who just cannot wait to get out. For sure. And be with a crowd, and they drink beer and they eat and they're happy and it's a party. And then you have the others because we had a lot of ticket members that called us up and said, listen, guys, keep my tickets for 2022. I don't want to go this year. So we had a lot of those people that chose to pass on 2021 for a number of reasons. So I cannot, for sure, it's hard to put a number on it, but it's for sure it was something that was not positive around the experience of coming to the stadium, unfortunately. Even though we did our best to make it less, as less the lesser burden that we could. Let's put it that way.
And as a longtime season ticket holder, I think I can speak for Cliff when I say this too, is that we were impressed in how the team was able to adapt, especially when it came to the passport and having to ask all the new gather the new information. I came when I needed to, when the team suggested. I do understand that there were issues, but overall, Mario, if I were to say, I would give the team a solid A on how it was and how the team actually was able to do it. So kudos to the team and how you guys are able to handle the restrictions and allow fans into the stands.
Well, thank you for saying that, and of course the operations team that we have, and an experienced one, and they were able to turn around, and that's when I say we did the best that we could in a stadium that has 4 doors and not 8.
Yeah.
And it's the most romantic stadium, when it's filled on a nice night, but it's not the most practical, let's put it that way in terms of but thank you for mentioning it, because the operations team deserve a big thumbs up.
For sure. Cliff?
Okay, I'm a little curious about something, Mario. Maybe you can. I just want to circle back to as far as before the limits went up as far as attendance goes for the Alouettes. When you were only starting at 2,500, and it was pretty much expected that it was only going to be season ticket holders that were going to be allowed to attend the games. During that time, was demand so high for tickets that you felt like you had to turn people away to respect the limits, or was there demand and it was just a matter of trying to find that challenge to meet the 2,500 limit?
Well, no, the meeting the 2,500 limit was not an issue. And to your point, we were not as much turning people away as people were calling us and saying, I'll be there for 2023 or 2022. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't want to get excited and then maybe not be able to come. And we had never got to the point where we had a lot of scenarios on the table, how to accommodate, was it first come, first serve? Was it on a rotation basis? So you guys pick 3 games and the others pick 3 games, we were all on those scenarios, and we are not yet communicated how we would handle it. And then the rules changed. So it did slow down a lot of people because they just didn't know. And it's okay because we were still hearing by the end of July. Remember when the Canadians were in the playoff, they played up until July, and the Canadians themselves made a press conference asking for 10,000 people. And so we're there, and we're just bystanders at that time. We said, okay, well, if they succeed inside, then we'll be okay outside, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Then they were shut down during the Stanley Cup playoffs, which was probably early July. And I think we got the go maybe 2 weeks after. So you had people holding off because the plan was not communicated yet. So we would have had that would have been a nice puzzle, in terms of how do you decide who comes to the game and who doesn't,
Yeah.
As soon as we would have been at around 10,000, then we would have been okay at that point. But 4 games before, we probably would have had a challenge.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, too, and one last question about when it came to COVID and health measures. In your history as being an executive, Mario, was this the most challenging year you've ever had to face?
That's a good question. I've had, unfortunately, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but my career has been doing just that, turning businesses around and taking some companies that have deficits and difficulty and making them profitable within a reasonable amount of time. So, So it's all been it's a different set of challenge. What made COVID unique is the fact that it's obviously global and the fact that you feel helpless. You feel like there's a lot of things you don't control. There's no visibility. Even if you do a plan, and as you know, the league did many plans in 2020 where we ended up not playing. This year we did about 7 or 8 scenarios, even looking at the Olympic Stadium, looking at McGill, trying to find. So every time you do don't forget social distancing.
Yeah.
In the beginning. We had the games where, technically speaking, we sold the tickets based on social distancing in terms of groups. But then when people knew each other, they sort of, still moved up and were next to one another. So there were things we couldn't control. So that made it probably unique. I'm not sure it's the toughest because at the same time, when it affects everybody, there's sort of a feeling there of helplessness that you say, okay, guys, this is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. So you don't feel as pressured or guilty of not succeeding to the maximum because nobody else in the world is, Mm-hmm. Even look at the crowds. I don't know, tonight it's going to be, we're recording this on December 7th. The Canadians are playing Tampa Bay tonight, Stanley Cup team last year, and the rematch. And I don't know if they're going to be there's 21,000 in the stands. The recent game suggests it's more like 15 and 16,000. So every arena in Canada for hockey, and even, you saw the playoff game in Saskatchewan, for example, where they usually turn out great crowds, and there were about the 2/3 of the crowds that they usually have. So there is something going on where people are a little bit holding back. So, and we all feel a little bit helpless. So to me, it's more the helplessness around it that you don't have. Say, you're used as an executive. You're used to say, "Here's an issue. Here's my 5 solutions, and which one do I pick?"
Right.
And hopefully, I pick the right one. Now we're looking at this, and we say, "Here's 5 issues," and you know what? There's no solution short term.
Yeah.
Because the government won't let you. So very frustrating from that point of view. Very frustrating.
I can imagine. Cliff?
Okay, let's talk about 2021 as far as, I know that you're limited to what you can speak about as far as the on-field product goes, but off-field, do you feel like the Alouettes reached the goals that they wanted to that were set out early in the season?
I think that it depends how you look at it, Cliff. We reached our goals in context of COVID. And that's important because a lot of our marketing plan, a lot of the proximity we wanted to have with fans and the community, for guys like you, season ticket holders, we had promised access to the field to everybody, which will now be next year, either before games, after games. All of these, visits in the locker rooms, all of these things that has been done in the past that we wanted to build on and improve. We wanted to have a sort of a meeting on a weekly basis between Kahari, Danny, and myself with a group of fans in some form of location. So direct access, sort of a debriefing the weekend game, so directly with the actors of the game and potentially having 1 or 2 players. All of these things went away because of COVID, Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of, and that's not even counting on the community events and all the presence that either myself, Danny, or the players can make. So if you put that aside because it was against our control and certainly against our will, and then you have to look at the results based on the number of new advertisers, the ratings on RDS and TSN, ratings on TSN 690 and 98.5 in French radio, the media coverage. And you can judge that, of course. I mean, my communications people tell me it was definitely the best coverage over the past probably 6-7 years, going back to Anthony days, 2012 or something like that, and when it was, after the difficult seasons. So, and then you look at season ticket growth, and you say, okay, it's got to be. I mean, it's a positive year from that point of view. Let's put it that way in context of COVID. So the revised objective in context of COVID, I guess we can say were attained from that point of view.
Okay. You touched on something that I would like to talk about as far as the ratings go on TSN and RDS. Obviously, there is an appetite for football. There's definitely people that are, if they're not coming to the games, they're at least being able to watch the games at home.
Yeah.
Now, is there a game plan as far as trying to turn a lot of those viewers into actual attendees?
Yeah, well, that's, of course, and it's not only viewers, but it's also those sometimes who actually would like to enjoy a show even though they don't watch TV, games on TV. So we need to get after those very challenging demographics. We have a game that we're thinking right now that takes 3 hours. So maybe at the end of the day, it's 4 to 5 hours out of somebody's day. So that takes a lot of convincing also with the new demographics, the younger ones, I mean. So we need to find ways in order to attract them. But I think it starts, and guys, I won't surprise you by my answer. I mean, you are long-time season ticket holders. It's much more fun to go see the Alouettes in 2008, 2009, and 2010 than in 2013, 14, and 15, right? And that's probably the understatement of the year, when the team is winning versus when the team is not. So putting a product on the field that's exciting, that has character, that by next year is disciplined, and also that is always exciting to watch is first and foremost the best sales tool, if you will, if you allow me that expression, that we can dream of. The rest will be all working around making the overall experience around the stadium as much pleasant as we want. Tailgate will be able to happen in a better fashion next year. We're already in talks with some of our partners to improve and to make it as much as we can happening. So all of these things are in the talks right now. So yes, it's going to be all around making it an event, 10 times a year, and hopefully an event that people feel that they cannot miss.
And you happen to get back, Montreal's tradition in the Thanksgiving Day game, and hopefully that will continue for years and years and years and years.
Well, we are exactly. We are doing the schedule right now. If we're lucky, it will be announced sometime, and hopefully before Christmas. It's not for me to. It's for the CFL, of course, to decide. But I've looked at a couple of drafts right now, so I know we're getting near. So and hopefully that's a tradition that we're going to keep. Absolutely, there was a great successful game this year. It was a nerve-wracking game when that's the one we won in the last 20 seconds or last minute. But but absolutely, it's a tradition that needs to go on.
Oh yeah. It was a frustrating. I think I mentioned this to you last year too. It was frustrating when when the team lost it for a year. Because everybody has the Labor Day Classic. They had the Banjo Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. In Montreal, not really having a natural rival, it kind of was nice to see getting Ottawa in here for Thanksgiving on the day that we call which is a part of, in my opinion, it's part of Montreal tradition and lore, is the Thanksgiving Day game. So it's fingers crossed. I know you may know, but fingers crossed that we'll be there on that October Monday. So
yeah. But if we have it our way, we will be there, and even against Ottawa, we will be there. Because we want the tradition. We love to beat Ottawa, as you all know.
Oh,
Quebec always loves Ottawa, right? So that's the way to look at it.
Mario, is the team going to be looking again at? Because I know it was a huge staple within the team itself, and obviously it was canceled because of COVID. But potentially bringing back the fan plane game, the fan bus game, the fan train game, is the team looking into that for 2022 if it's allowed?
Absolutely. Yeah. These are traditions that, again, this is part of the things that we did in the past. We want to do again, and pushing my team to improve it. Make up on the 1 year that we missed. It's nobody's fault, of course. It's not ours. But absolutely, that's going to be part of it. I want to increase the locker room visits because I know it's fun. This is the things that are usually that you cannot access easy, that are fun, and especially when you can bring your kids and your young ones. I I had some gentleman wrote to me last week saying that he had given up on his season tickets for the past 5-6 years and came back this year with a 6-year-old, and so nothing is better than discovering something from your childhood with your child, So, and I know that, when you're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, to walk into a locker room where everything is larger than life, and you admire those athletes. These are things that we want to bring back. Absolutely. I mean, and hopefully, Tim and Cliff build on it. Make your experience the best that it was, better than the ones you have for the past 20 years. I mean, that's going to be our goal next year, is try to make it up to our fans as much as we can.
For sure.
When I say make it up, I mean the missed 2020 season and the challenging 2021 from the point of view.
Cliff?
All right. As far as trying to grow the game outside of Montreal, like I have said on numerous occasions that the Alouettes really have to consider themselves like the Saskatchewan Roughriders, like make it not just Montreal's team, but Quebec's team. Are there plans in place to hopefully grow that in 2022?
That's such a timely question. Yesterday morning, we were in meetings about that, discussing many, many opportunities. Training camp could be held in another city. Scrimmage could be held in another city during training camp. Even if we have it in Montreal, we could travel for a day or two. Exhibition game can be in, Quebec, Sherbrooke, Trois-Rivières. Yesterday morning, we're actually discussing that. And you might see this year that we did our focus of marketing on light up the stadium, so more on the experience at the stadium and not about Montreal, not about just all that aspect, which is I'm not criticizing, but we just turn it around because we do want to become Quebec's team, just like you described some of the teams that are, BC Lions and Saskatchewan Roughriders, which carry the name. Obviously, in Ontario, you cannot do that because there's 3 teams, but places, and neither can you in Alberta, but certainly BC and Saskatchewan does. And the Bombers could do that also. They could be the Manitoba Bombers, but it's Winnipeg, and that's fine. But they are the team of a province. So, of course, that's a goal we want to accomplish.
All right. In regards to Danny Machocha, this was his first full year as general manager. In your estimation, do you think that he accomplished the goals that he wanted to as far as putting the best possible product on the field?
I think so. Danny, first of all, you guys know Danny. I don't know, sometimes we over-abuse that term, but certainly he's the hardest working man in show business, as we say. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable, the amount of work, the amount of study. It's impressive. And I can tell you that the Montreal team is in good hands with Danny at the helm there from the football operations. There is a sense of Danny laid out, and what I like about Danny's communication is quite clear, which fits my style in the sense of what we wanted the Alouettes to represent and to be. And if you remember, he had said a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to very precisely, he had said, I want to know a defensive line that's going to get much more than 24 sacks over 18 games. If you remember that, he had said that as a goal. So, because we had 24 sacks in 18 games in 2019, I think we ended up with close to 50 sacks. And I think we're number 1 or 2 in the league. So that's number 1 promise made. He talked about Canadian content / Quebec content. I think we held up that promise in very good fashion, And he had talked about not only great Canadian content, O-line, but obviously a great QB. So we started the year with Vernon, of course. Then he got hurt, and I remind everybody, because sometimes people can be tough on our stars and our athletes, but when Vernon was hurt, he was leading the league in terms of TD passes. And then he got hurt, and we played with Matthew, gave us 2 great wins. Matthew got hurt. In the Saskatchewan game was a bit more difficult, then got hurt. And in prevention, we were very lucky. Danny, with his instincts, went and got Trevor Harris. So we had 3 quarterbacks this year and 3 CFL solid experience, CFL caliber QBs. So we almost never missed a beat. The challenge we had this year, of course, was around the fact when Mario Alford got hurt. That was something that Danny, so I gave him an A+, but Danny, knowing him, will probably not give himself an A+. But in context of everything, I think I'm very, very satisfied with the performance, with the way that they were able to, fill up the O-line. Even it's difficult to know when you get to your depth player number 3 or 4, and these guys are full of heart. Don't get me wrong, but they're not used to playing together. They haven't started with the training camp, and the cohesion that's needed on an O-line and on a D-line, offensive and defensive line. Sorry. I'm assuming that everybody's a big football fan, so I can use O-line and D-line, and people will get it, of course. I'm talking about your listeners, but yes. So I'm really, really satisfied and beyond with Danny and his team. He would be the first one to point out that he doesn't do that alone. Just like when sometimes people point out that we could have been more efficient on punt returns after Mario got hurt, for instance, or kickoff returns. Danny is always quick to say, yeah, you can look at the guy that catches the ball, but there's also 11 guys that need to block. And if they don't block and the guy's surrounded, there's not much you can do. So again, football is the quintessential teamwork. And it's the same thing when you talk about recruitment, So everybody, we have guys covering the States, guys covering the East, the West, and that's key in order to be able to have the next man step up in good fashion.
Okay, and let's go on the other side. As far as Gary Stern's ownership so far with the Alouettes, do you think that he is fully committed to providing you, Danny, and Kahari with everything possible, everything that's needed to put forth the best possible team, both on and off the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he hasn't faltered. I mean, through a season through a difficult season of non-playing, not season, but year of not playing, which turns into pure losses. We want to accelerate our plan and get to the quickest way to to the finish line of breaking even and making profit. So, but we're on the way there. Gary has been supportive and understands the position, and like us, disappointed in the results on the field. Like us, wish that we would have known earlier about the fans and we would have done maybe some marketing differently. We will never know that. But we just feel that we're working hard and we need to earn the trust of the fans to come out, and at least we have all positive signs this year. So it's a step in the right direction again.
Yeah.
Okay. And also too, being a media guy, I think you need to talk to Gary about his Twitter profile, because it's kind of lacking. I mean, he gives great opinions, and I admire his passion and dedication, but it just looks like an anonymous Twitter account. So I don't know if maybe
he needs a picture. He needs a picture.
At least a picture, or at least I don't know if Gary Stern is available. Maybe like Gary Stern Owls or something. Like maybe we need to talk to him about this.
I will pass on the message. It's not as if we haven't done it, but Gary's his own man, so it's the way he likes it. But I will pass it on again, guys. I guarantee. Yeah.
All right, that's all we can ask.
and finally,
yeah, exactly.
And finally, Mario, let's talk about 2022. Obviously, upcoming schedule, whenever that is going to be released, we know the fans will know a little bit more, and obviously from there, the team will let us know what's going to be coming up for 2022. One of the things I wanted to ask, and for some it's minor, for others it's a major type of thing, because we can look at 2021. If people want to remember 2021, they're really, besides what was given to the fans or to the season ticket holders, besides the merchandise that they got as being a season ticket holder, the team had to suspend giving out the season ticket cards as an example. Does the team see themselves bringing back that type of stuff where they can actually have a physical reminder of a season next year? Will the team be bringing back those cards as far as you know, or is the team going to be centering on going digital from now on?
The key in your question is physical object to remember.
Yes.
So that we're working on that.
Okay.
Is it a ticket? Is it a card? I think we're committed to digital, no doubt. But we clearly, I think we have an idea that I'm not ready to share, but that I tried out once or twice this year. And the ticket members went and put it on their Facebook, and they were very proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we might be on to a little something that's a nice gesture and something that's a little bit unique that not a lot of people have. So we're working on that stuff. But yes, there's going to be a physical, to use your expression, memento of 2022 out there.
Because I will admit, I've been a guy, I'm an old school guy, Mario, where I was bummed when the team got rid of the pocket schedules, but I understand why they were gotten rid of. And I was kind of against them, taking away the physical tickets. But I was sort of the type of fan who got used to having the season ticket card because I thought it was unique. You can pull it out of your thing, you have it with you always, and you can say, and it's a conversation starter because you can pull it out and say, "Is that your credit card?"
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm a season ticket holder of the Montreal Alouettes, that type of thing. So, I'm looking forward to seeing.
And not to say that it won't come back.
Oh no, I know. I'm
just haven't made the decision
for sure. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. So that's I'm anticipating something cool. So that's what I'll say about that. What are you guys looking for 2022, Mario? Because I know, as we know, 2021 was very tough. Obviously, we're looking forward to a full 10-game home season, including preseason, and having those summer nights at Percival Molson. Is the team looking to stay roughly on the same type of games where it's Fridays, Saturdays, and the odd Monday game, or is it? Do you think that? Because I remember in the year-end survey, it wasn't asked this year. But do you think the team's going to be looking more or less on Fridays, Saturdays for most of the games next season?
Most of the games, I think. First of all, we hope to have one Monday, and we hope to have 11 games. So that means that we would be
you're right. Sorry,
hosting the Eastern Final.
Yes.
Very important. But yes, we're looking for a full schedule, and we're probably going to have a good spread out between mostly Fridays and Thursdays.
Okay.
We will have our share of Saturdays. I'm trying to remember the last draft I saw, which will be public soon, but it's sort of equal. We're trying to have it balanced, but for us, we want to skip the week of the Grand Prix, for example.
Yep.
We also want to skip the week of construction.
Yep.
So we always end up being a little bit on the road more in the beginning, and then having a homestay as of August, and of course bye weeks in between all that. So I'm not sure we'll be more heavily on. I think we have a good chunk we will have a good chunk of Fridays and Thursdays. We like those games during the week in the summer. That's always a big hit. So we should be pretty even. We should be pretty even in next year, and obviously, hopefully, playing 11 games.
Yes. Cliff?
Yes, absolutely. All right. Honestly, I think you covered quite a bit already. I mean, like I said, it's so hard because I can't help but feel this team should be getting ready for a game this Sunday, and they're not. And it's frustrating for sure. But I mean, it's stuff that's beyond our control. Honestly, I have to say, like, this year has definitely been a challenging one for the Alouettes. It's been a challenging one as a supporter for the Alouettes, but I think for the most part, we got through it, and I think I definitely think we could say that we've enjoyed the experience so far, and
I think so.
In less than ideal circumstances, but I think we made the most of it, and we definitely appreciate that the team was able to play first and foremost. I mean, I think that was crucial.
Yeah.
I think the efforts that you've made to help grow the team exponentially has definitely not gone unnoticed. And to me, I'm really curious to see just what 2022 is going to bring, not just for the Alouettes players, coaches, and staff, but also too for the front office as well. Because I have to admit, I do hold this team in very high regard. I do have some pretty lofty standards to what I see on and off the field. And to me, like, that's my hope, is that this team just keeps growing and keeps evolving and becoming a much better product. And I will say, Mario, like, I want this team to succeed on and off the field. And I'm very encouraged by what you've been able to say over the past few weeks and even here tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm encouraged by everything I'm hearing, and I just want to see it continue.
Yeah. And I would say too that, you know, kudos to the team too, Mario, considering that, you know, the team may have lost so many good employees because of either furloughing or because they left for whatever reasons during COVID. I applaud the team for being able to get things together with whom they may have currently had or the others that they have hired. And I look forward to seeing what they can do in 2022.
Well, thank you very much, and I do appreciate you mentioning this, because COVID, from a staff point of view, is a great challenge. But the good thing, if I say sometimes, about turnover, is that obviously you got people who are really enthused. And what we find out is that the Alouettes brand is still very strong. We have a lot of, again, just a rejuvenated, passionate staff on board, which just eager to move forward. And I will end it just at the top of your comment that you just made. You mentioned that we should be playing tomorrow. I can tell you that, not tomorrow, but Sunday. I can tell you that watching the games on Sunday was one of the most frustrating experiences of my sport life. We should have been on TV. I should not have been sitting in my living room. I should have been in Toronto. And I was saying the same thing to Kahari and Danny yesterday. I said, you guys have been through it. So you don't win every year. Me, it's my first time. And I was literally PO'd. I was not happy watching those games, and you still don't get over it. So I totally share your feeling. You're absolutely right. And it's our duty now to make it up next year.
Oh, Mario,
well, this would definitely. I hope you use this as motivation then. This is what they tell the sports people all the time: is use that anger, that feeling of being PO'd, use that as the motivation to be better and to put forth a better product, so that this time next year we'll be talking about playing in the Grey Cup.
We'll be getting ready to go to Grey Cup.
Exactly, it's not a good feeling, and that's exactly right. I mean, it is a motivation, and we know our league. We have one standard. The Alouettes, I don't know if they always had it, but we have it since 2020. And Kahari thinks the same way, and so does Danny. We need to get to the game, and that's going to be the goal every year. Nothing short than that. Yeah,
and I can say, as I said at the top of the show, I hope that that us talking to you at the end of the season, it becomes a yearly thing. It's in year 2. We really appreciate your time, Mario. And obviously, hey, all the best for 2022, right?
My pleasure. Count on it of being a tradition. No problem.
Once again, we want to thank honestly, we want to thank Alouettes President Mario Cecchini for joining us. The gentleman has always been open and honest with us. He's able to tell us the information that he can, and we really appreciate his candor. It's really, really greatly appreciated that we're able to speak with him and get you the fans, information about the Alouettes.
Oh, without question. And to hear him be as honest and transparent as he possibly could. I mean, we certainly don't expect him to spill all the beans about everything. I mean, you want to have some surprises to be able to drop throughout the off season, but just to hear him talk, like, not just about the product on the field, but just about what the team is planning to do off the field. Tell you what, folks, I've been critical about the Alouettes and their direction for the past couple of years, but I will give credit where credit's due. I think this team has definitely taken steps to get in the right direction. Again, we're looking at a team that's gone to the playoffs 2 years in a row. also finished early 2 years in a row. But again, that doesn't speak to the off-field portion of things. To me, I think Mario and his team are committed and focused on presenting the best product possible. And I think we're going to be seeing that, especially in the coming weeks, months leading up into 2022. I can't help but feel confident in the direction where this team is going off the field. And hopefully that's going to translate to on-field success as well. Hopefully that's going to translate to more butts in the seats in 2022 and just overall success for this team. And believe me, I will always, always root for that.
For sure. Before we finish up the show, I want to remind everybody that we are on social media. You can find us many, many places. You want to head over to our archive at alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can also head over to any of the different podcast hosts that are out there. Just do a search for Alouettes Flight Deck, and you should be able to find us there and listen. With Spotify and iHeartRadio. Those are some of the bigger ones too that we are currently on.
And Tim, I actually just found out we are also now on Amazon Music.
Oh, amazing!
Isn't that great?
That's cool, dude. That's cool.
I think we can. I think I could be wrong because I think we just found this out this afternoon. But can't help but wonder if you've got like one of those smart speakers. I wonder if you can train it to say. I won't say it here because mine is no doubt listening to me. But Alexa, play Alouettes Flight Deck.
Yep,
and it just might.
Yep. I know mine automatic. I think mine would automatically go to iHeart if I'm not mistaken, because that's how I usually do with my smart speaker. Mm-hmm. The old Goog settings that he is. But yeah, that's cool. I did not even know that. Thanks for updating us. So
that's it. So again, folks, this is just more great ways to be able to listen to this podcast. And once again, I can't stress this enough. Check us out on YouTube.
Yes. Yep.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a like.
Get us to 100. Get us to 100, babies.
Listen, do you not want one of those awesome retro jackets? Hello, you've seen us rock them at Percival Molson Stadium. Do you not want one of your own?
We've even been on TV with them on.
Exactly.
Yes.
Listen, these jackets, they are a conversation starter. They are a statement piece. If you don't want one of these, fine. But if you do, the easiest way to get your hands on one is tell your friends and family and everybody that you know to subscribe to the Alouettes Flight Deck YouTube page.
That's right, because people need to remember, these aren't for sale anymore at the Alouettes store.
There you go, folks.
So, and don't forget, we're obviously on Twitter at Alouettes FL Deck. Cliff's at Cliffy D. I'm at Repact, REPPACT. There is also our Facebook page, our new Facebook page. Curious to know if you were part of our ad blitz that we had over the past 2 weeks. You can check us out. Just look up Alouettes Flight Deck or look up Alouettes Flight Deck Pod. Also Instagram, many, many places. So, as I said, but YouTube, do it. I'm not putting any pressure on. Do it.
Listen, we can't tell you what to do, but you should do that.
Exactly. And don't forget our merch store too. It's we have some pretty cool stuff up there.
Absolutely. Holiday season's come. We're pretty much in the holiday season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what better gift to give your favorite podcast listener than some really sweet Alouettes Flight Deck merchandise?
Exactly.
So check out the links. You'll find it on on all of our socials. You'll find the link to get to our merchandise store. Pick up some great stuff. And what better way to celebrate the holiday season than to give your loved ones some awesome Alouettes Flight Deck merchandise?
Exactly. And lastly, before we finish up, we decided we're going to go ahead and make our picks for the Grey Cup. Cliffy, I know you will be there representing Alouettes Nation and also the Flight Deck. So if anybody of you are going to be into Hamilton, you give Cliffy a shout out on social, and maybe you can meet up at the game or whatever. But we're going to choose who we think is going to win the Grey Cup. And Cliff, I'm going to go with you first.
Well, Hamilton and Winnipeg, round 2, or I guess it would be round 2.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know what's harder. What's more pressure? Hosting the Grey Cup and playing in it, or trying to repeat as Grey Cup champions? To me, it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. But I have to go with Winnipeg. I think they've got the horses. They've proven it this year. Let's face it. Until they came to Montreal, they only had one loss, and it was just by a touchdown to Toronto. Since then, for the most part, this team has been dominant up and down, consistent more than anything else. They know how to play. They know how to win. I think Zach Collaros is going to. I think, unfortunately, he is going to take home the most outstanding player at the CFL Awards, and I think he's going to lead his team to their second straight Grey Cup.
Yeah.
Imagine after a 30-year Grey Cup drought, it's very possible that come Sunday, the Bombers could be back-to-back champions, and I truly think they're going to do it.
I do too. I'm heading that direction too. Even though Winnipeg, we don't know what happened with them last week. Saskatchewan couldn't take advantage of those 6 turnovers that they had. Again, you had the change in quarterback for Hamilton, and it is pressure. It's hard to win at home. If you're there, it's hard to win. I said, look how many years it's been since the last team won at home. But yeah, I'm on the same side as you. They will come back-to-back champions. I think they will repeat as being Grey Cup champions. So, and unlike you, Cliff, I honestly think this game's going to be as much of a blowout as it was last time.
You really think so?
I really think it will be.
Well, I think Dane Evans has proven himself to be a very solid quarterback, and to the point where you can't help but wonder, like, why did they invest so much in Masoli only to go back to Dane Evans?
Mm-hmm.
But the guy knows how to win, and I think he'll actually put together a solid performance. I think back in 2019, I think Hamilton, despite having a much better record, I kind of got the sense that they were just happy to be there, whereas Winnipeg was desperate to get that monkey off their back. And they made the trade to get Collaros. He went on that magical run, and they reached their destiny. But yeah. I think Winnipeg, they're addicted to winning now. I think it wasn't a case of they got a taste of winning and there was no Grey Cup hangover with that team. Like, they just kept rolling and rolling. And even when players went down to injury, others stepped up and were able to keep playing at a high level. And to me, I think that's what's going to be key more than anything else, is that I just think Winnipeg is built to win. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do on Sunday. I think it'll be a more competitive game, but I still think Winnipeg is going to come out on top. And they're going to be the first back-to-back Grey Cup champions since the Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah. Stay tuned to our social media for any updates on what we mentioned before about our potential last show of the season, and for any other information that may come across social media concerning the Alouettes, whether it be the schedule, whether it be free agency, whether it be whether it be Cliff taking a swig of beer or multiple beers over at the Grey Cup. It'll be there for everybody to see. And remember, Cliff, while you're there, just remember, once it's on the internet, it's always on the internet.
That's true. You try as you might, you can't delete your history on the internet.
No, you can't. So stay safe, my friend. I hope you have fun. I'll be watching from the comfort of my couch, but again, have fun and represent us, Alouettes Nation and the flight deck as well as you normally do. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.